introduction, we are here to present basically two quantitative exercises, the results of a supply-demand analysis for biomass sources and biomass to energy consumption, and an additional exercise where we attempted to build an economic optimization model when carbon price signals are explicitly provided for forest managers, and we tend to show you the very stunning results that emerge from this second exercise as well. Jumping into the supply-demand research, I would like to assure you that we did a great scrutiny of data sources, and as our colleagues at GRC explained, data quality is very uneven. For the demand statistics, we decided then to exclusively rely on Eurostat data for sake of consistency, because we were analyzing three countries, Hungary, Bulgaria, and Romania. We analyzed the transformation input for power, for heating, and for cogeneration, and we analyzed the data for final energy consumption, basically by households, and also for industrial users and tertiary sectors. On the supply side, we basically relied on forestry data from authorities on primary wood production, but we also included the net balance of official export-import data, and we made our own estimates for use of forestry residues for energy purposes. And in all the three countries, we attempted to include other solid biomass sources, basically from agricultural residues and byproducts, as well as non-wooded lands. I come back to that later. Unit transformations were, I'm not intending to go into detail, but we were very attentive to details when water content is utilized in the transformation sector and not utilized in the household heating sector for technological reasons. And now jumping to the first case, we see here Bulgaria. All the greens are the sources and all the yellows and browns are the consumption figures, dropped against each other in two parallel units. As you see on the left-hand side, those are 1,000 cubic meters. On the right-hand side, those are terajoules. So energy units and volumes are dropped against each other, so that to see adequacy of supply and demand data, basically. Bulgaria seems to be very consistent in not producing a sizable gap between the two data streams right until 2018, when something is happening. We did a substantial research into the Bulgarian energy sector, and we realized that the gap is basically best explained hypothetically by a newly emerging trend of coal-fired power plants to include biomass into their fuel mix and co-fire wood with coal for several reasons. In our reports, you can see a more elaborate explanation and some anecdotal evidence based on personal interviews with actors in the Bulgarian energy sector. So the gap has started to emerge in Bulgaria by the time we closed our study. Next slide is about the Hungarian case. You see the gap is more sizable. It sometimes exceeds 50% of demand or consumption, final consumption. You see that there has been a methodological change between 2004 and 2005. There is no fundamental reason for such a jump in consumption. We interviewed several times the officials at the Statistical Office and the Energy Authority how this methodology change affected the consumption data. There is a very sizable unexplained use of biomass energy in the case of Hungary. Our next slide is an attempt to explain the gap for just 1 year. We picked 2019 to look for other sources besides the forestry production data, and we attempted to include all primary biomass material from agricultural lands that are not under the category of forest land. So we have non-forest land wood production included here, based basically on our own assumptions. We still could not explain 43% of the gap, even including agricultural lands that are cleared for wood for reasons other than energy production. And that's very bad news. And our last exercise was with Romania, where the gap has been sizable all over the research period, all over 2 decades. And it is a third interesting case because, as you see, there is not a sizable transformation sector on the demand side. So it means that very little heating is produced by heating plants, and basically no electricity is produced based on biomass. And yet you are having a sizable gap that is explained by households on purchases or on production of heating wood for their own purposes. So the gaps in all these 3 countries are significantly higher than what we saw in the European context. Our colleagues just explained us how it grew from 9 to 13% over several years. This is a different scale of problem in all 3 countries, unluckily.